I'm sure you've all heard of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, I'm announcing a new disorder that's so widespread it affects nearly every common, non-elitist on the planet. It's called recurring traumatic stress disorder, or RTSD. And I don't give a damn if the psychological industry recognizes this disorder or not. RTSD is a reaction to the mass stresses all the common are subjected to on a daily basis. This stress is the cause of all the mass stress-related physical illnesses and the mass anxiety, depression, neurosis, and psychosis that permeates our global capitalist-ruled society. Where PTSD deals largely with a single extreme traumatic event, RTSD deals with ongoing and repeated traumatic events, of which some may be less extreme, but the recurring and systemic nature of the trauma makes it every bit as harmful to those inflicted by it. After World War II, many psychologists noticed numerous survivors of concentration camps experienced a heightened sense of justice following their horrific ordeal. But this isn't true. Their experiences led to a normal sense of justice, a sense of justice we should all possess but have been conditioned from birth to abandon, a state of refusing to accept any injustice that occurs to anyone. What they experienced was a reawakening of their inherent and natural empathy, something that's inborn in every human that's methodically removed from us through elitist social conditioning. But it's something that's required. We all reawaken within ourselves if we're ever to re-achieve any level of true and permanent betterment in human relations and society. The elite lack empathy and, as a result, have become sociopaths. It's the way they were raised, and it's the corrupting influence of wealth and power. And they've made sociopaths of practically all of us, and we're also brainwashed we accept it as normal and don't even see it. The elite have created a global social structure based upon the principles of their sociopathy, where apathy, conflict, cutthroat competition, cruelty, and brutality are what the rules of society are based upon. The elite force us, through demands of employment, to do their dirty work for them. And believing this is just how normal society is supposed to work, we comply. But it's mainly only the sociopathic elite who reap the rewards from your compliant sociopathic behavior. But this isn't normal human behavior. This isn't how we're supposed to be living. It's in complete contradiction to our inherent human nature. And living out of sync with our own true nature not only causes our own stress-related physical illnesses, anxiety, depression, neurosis, and psychosis, but also causes RTSD in each other. In other words, our sociopathic compliance to the demands of our sociopathic elite causes not only stress and psychosis in others, but also causes our own stress and psychosis. It's time we wake up to this insanity and refuse to play their game of divide and conquer, of dog eat dog anymore. I'll share with you a few of the personal causes of my RTSD. I wrote the following email to several federal level politicians. It states, "Please help. I've paid over $11,000 on a $3,500 single semester student loan debt I don't owe, and they're not stopping. Treasury Offset has been stealing from my poverty level monthly disability payments since 2007 to pay on this debt. At the end of every year, the student loan program adds more to the debt in interest than was paid the previous year, turning this into a lifelong debt. I didn't even finish the semester, and I received no grades. I paid 11 grand and received absolutely nothing in return, and I've never returned to college. The numerous other reasons I don't owe this false debt are irrelevant, because they've stolen $11,000 for a $3,500 debt, and they're not stopping. This is theft and loan sharking. I've notified my own California federal reps, the U.S. Educational Committee, the Student Loan Program, and even Obama when he was president on several occasions, but no one cares. This is insane. The reality is every cent stolen should be returned to me with interest. But at this point in time, they can keep $3,500 or even $4,000, but the rest must be returned. Help me put an end to this insanity. That's the end of the email. I tried to send this email to Nancy Pelosi and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, both of whom wouldn't accept emails from non-constituents. I did manage to send it to Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, and my own 2 federal senators, Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein, and they all completely ignored me. And this isn't the only time I've notified Congress of these illegal student loan program scams. I've sent emails and letters to various government agencies, federal committees, and politicians for over a decade, and nothing is ever done to stop or correct this theft. At the end of every year, the student loan program tacks on more interest to the debt that exceeds all the payments of the previous year. There are those who were so stupid as to acquire debts as large as 50 or even 100 grand or more. I wasn't that stupid. I fell for a $3,500 debt scam once and got the hell out. And still the theft will continue every month for the rest of my life, and no goddamn politician will stop it. Why? My student loan account hasn't been seen by a person in at least 15 years. This is all being done through computer automation. In fact, the decision to apply Treasury offset to my account was done by a computer. There's no human oversight. Although the system is automated, it's still people who enforce the commands of the computers and make the computer system function. The computers tell the people what to do, not the other way around. And there's no regard to special circumstances, whether I actually owe the money or the source of the payments being extracted by the Treasury Department to apply to this sham debt. The Treasury offset law is being applied ex post facto, which violates the Constitution. And there was no lawsuit, court filings, or court oversight. I wasn't given the legal constitutional protection of due process to dispute or challenge the decision. After the process had begun, a computer notified me that I could now challenge their actions in court, after my right to due process was already violated. But guess what? My right to legal counsel and representation isn't protected either. I have no legal right of access to any legal representation. They refuse to represent me because I can't afford their extortion fees. So I, like most Americans, am completely shut out from any legal remedies. The politicians are my only option, and they just couldn't care any less who they screw. Some politicians are suggesting debt forgiveness for student loans. But even if this plan is ever realized, does that include refunds for all or any monies already stolen from the public? You can bet it most certainly does not. We need debt justice, debt forgiveness to stop the thievery, then theft reimbursement to pay back what was stolen, and then a dismantling of the entire student loan program to be replaced with a non-predatory, non-profit, taxpayer-funded college system that's available to all. And this will never happen as long as we continue our apathy and refuse to demand it and make it happen. Although the decision and process of stealing my disability to pay this illegal student debt was automated with little or no human oversight, my disability qualifications are reviewed by actual doctors every 3 to 5 years, which means the aid I get from the government can be periodically cut off, but the money the government steals from that aid is automatic and perpetual. But after 30 years of continuous qualification and confirmation of my disabilities, I've never been placed on permanent disability. And although my disability payments keep me in perpetual poverty, making me eligible for full Medicare and Medicaid, I'm constantly denied medical care to treat my many disabilities. And I suffer from numerous medical problems. For the last 9 years, the only time I haven't felt dizzy is when I'm asleep. And it's not uncommon for the dizziness to be accompanied by nausea and vomiting. I have leg problems, knee problems, eye, ear, dental, and dermatological problems. And I'm not even mentioning the physical problems I don't wish to share at the moment. I suffer from depression, anxiety, and RTSD. Some of these conditions I've had my whole life, and some are more recent developments. I have full Medicare and Medicaid, no deductible, no copay, and no medical care. Medicare is a scam. People don't understand how Medicare works. It's government funded and privately administered. It's run by a series of interconnected, contracted private corporations that administer its day-to-day functions. Complaints are even handled by a private corporation. The doctors work for private for-profit corporations. Like most everything else the government does, the daily functions of Medicare are contracted out to private for-profit interest. Government officials and cops, usually at the county level, are quick to pounce on any hint of patient-instigated Medicare fraud, but completely ignore all provider-committed Medicare fraud that I've ever reported. What we have in the U.S. is wealth care, not health care. The elite get prime treatment on command, while the poor are stuck with nurse practitioners, referral mills, and denial of health care. Have any of you morons who support Medicare for all ever actually asked anyone on Medicare if it sufficiently meets their medical needs? We need national, single-payer, tax-funded health care, not Medicare for all as it is. You can call it whatever you wish, but it needs to be much more effective, much more efficient, and patient-oriented, replete with provisions to expose and punish provider fraud and denial of care. That's what we need. We need real health care in this country. With equalism, those who deny you health care go to jail, and you can prescribe your own test and treatment if need be. The American Medical Association's monopoly over health care will be dissolved. Medical care is a human right. No one, not insurance companies, not politicians, not Medicare, not absence of local access, and not even doctors have a right to deny you medical care, or education, or a job, or legal representation. All these things are human rights. I have numerous legitimate lawsuits and criminal complaints I've been denied my right to file because the attorney and legal industry refuse me representation because I can't afford the extortionist rates they demand for their legal services. So in the last 20 years alone, I've had 11 grand stolen from my disability to pay a $3,500 debt I don't owe, and the false debt keeps growing. I've been constantly denied medical care as my disabilities increase. I've been falsely arrested and held in jail for 9 months. Thanks to the state of California, I was forced to sell my $2,000 vehicle for $125. I've had 50 grand stolen from me by my previous landlord, and the cops denied me my right to file a criminal complaint. I've been harassed for the last 3 years by neighbors, and my current landlord refuses to enforce the lease to protect me from this harassment. I'm denied my right to sue this current landlord for breach of lease and contract, and the cops won't let me file criminal complaints. I'm repeatedly denied legal access and attorney representation. I've bought 4 DV recorders, all which stopped functioning weeks after the 6-month warranty expired, and I bought a computer DVD burner, a computer keyboard with a touchpad, a trackball, a digital video recorder, an SD card, and 2 airbeds, none of which came with any suitable instructions, and none of which worked properly, to my satisfaction or at all. I'm regularly denied consistent, dependable access to public transportation, and I'm denied my right to use cash at the laundry facilities in my apartment complex. All of these are legitimate lawsuits and criminal complaints I'm not allowed to pursue because cops and lawyers deny me my rights. All laws and rights are only valid to the point where they're enforced. So long as politicians, businessmen, cops, prosecutors, judges, and courts continue to ignore and violate the law, and we continue to let them, our rights and legal protections will continue to be non-existent and unenforced. The U.S., state and local governments, retail businesses, the American Medical Association, and American Bar Association completely failed to protect me and hundreds of millions of others from systemic malfeasance, corruption, extortion, theft, and fraud. And these ongoing and repeated traumatic events from which people have no legal recourse or protections, no hope of even the simple enforcement of the law, or of ever attaining any justice, is the cause of mass RTSD, recurring traumatic stress disorder. It has resulted in a global human community fraught with delusions, depression, anxiety, stress, hopelessness, and anger. My computer, the internet, my internet provider, Microsoft, and other internet companies are also major sources of common RTSD. Internet companies are a total scam in too many ways to list here, but partly because the internet allows them to be unreachable, unresponsive, uninformative, and demand digitized currency to conduct transactions. And Microsoft periodically invades and takes over my computer to install unwanted updates without my consent. Why don't more people know the law and their own legal and human rights? The reality is, just because you sign something doesn't mean it's enforceable. That's a misconception nearly everyone has, thanks to elitist propaganda. Contracts can't be forced or coerced and must meet legal standards. No contract can contain illegal elements, compel you to break the law, or surrender your legal rights. Non-disclosure agreements, anti-privacy, and arbitration clauses are perfect examples. The Constitution guarantees your right to due process of law, which makes forced arbitration and non-disclosure illegal. And the same applies to ridiculous digitized corporate contracts you're forced to sign online. The problem is, few people actually know the law and their own human rights. My computer and the internet screws up all the time, yet we have idiots who welcome the elite scam plan to turn total control of all their daily functions and all of society over to these elitist controlled, highly flawed police state contraptions. Has humanity really gotten this stupid, this gullible, this lazy, this eager to exchange their freedom, their very humanity, for a little aggravating and flawed convenience? I want nothing to do with this insanity, none of it. But guess what? I have no choice. It's being forced on me whether I like it or not. I and you are at the mercy of all the blind, apathetic idiots who've been conditioned to accept anything and everything the elite and their commercialized science and technology throws at them. The right and left offer only exaggerated rhetoric and repackaged past failures, not real solutions. But equalism offers real alternatives and real solutions. With equalism, no one will be abandoned or mistreated without repercussions. With equalism, you'll always be left alone, but never left on your own to be victimized and abused over and over again. Through campaign contributions, bribery and corruption are now legal and often conducted in plain sight. Thanks to government contracts, corporate subsidies, tax breaks, and bailouts, the elite receive many times more government welfare than the elite allow the common. Now we have more of a welfare state than a welfare state. But you'll never hear the elite complain about big government when it enforces their will to the detriment of everyone else. Big government and big business don't work. Huge bureaucracies in the private and public sectors become rigid, inflexible, self-perpetuating, ever-increasing in size and complexity, corrupt, elitist, and exclusionary, rather than egalitarian and inclusionary. And they're often designed to be this way to begin with. They're designed to fail on many levels. They're designed for waste and inefficiency because there's power and profit in waste and inefficiency. So equalism rejects the less trust in and demands for bigger, more tyrannical, computerized public sector bureaucracies. And it rejects the right's trust in and demands for bigger, more tyrannical, computerized private sector bureaucracies. They're both elitist, authoritarian, totalitarian, enforce capitalist pursuits and produce fascist outcomes. Equalism demands that we all be allowed to live our lives without jumping through hoops like circus animals, without being shackled to the restrictions and dictates of the likes of the AMA, ABA, and the American University lobby, without being categorized, numerized, computerized, dehumanized, and digitized into countless databases and retrieval systems that are beyond our control and withheld from our knowledge. As an equalist, I want to live independently, not force dependence so I can live. We equalists want control over our lives back. We don't want politicians, businessmen, bureaucrats, doctors, lawyers, and educators telling us what to do. We want to tell them what to do. They aren't our bosses, we're their bosses. At most, these people are intended to have an advisory role in society, not a dictatorial role over humanity. You see, I know my rights and yours, and I'm in a constant battle to protect them. But I'm at a disadvantage because I can't protect these rights alone. Knowing your rights means nothing if you're alone when standing up for your rights. If we all knew our rights, we could join together for the mutual protection of each other's rights. Capitalism has been a complete and utter failure for over 6,000 years, yet it has functioned precisely as it was designed. Of course there are solutions, just not capitalist fascist ones. Capitalism utilizes the ridiculous concept of trade-offs. There's absolutely no reason to support an economic system that harms one to make better the life of another. Equalism calls such insanity predonomics, and predonomics is the economic principle that's ruled humanity and benefited the elite for more than 6,000 years. As an equalist, I've discovered a better way. It's time for a change. It's time to do things right for once. Equalism is the cure for your RTSD. So join the equalism movement, wake up humanity from this 6,000-year nightmare, and let's free humanity from its 6,000 years of dependence and slavery. Resist, refuse, revolt.